Welcome back to the official, the one and only, the Wondercat channel, the source of all your deck building needs. Today I thought I'd do something a little different with you guys. We're going to branch out of deck text. We're going to keep on theme though, and you probably guessed it from the title of this video. Today we're doing a tier list. So this series is going to be covering one color each per video. We're going to go over the archetype's general game plan, if it's popular, how it's affected the game so far. There's a lot of flexibility in the game so far in terms of both archetypes and builds, so there's a lot to go through, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. I should note, this list is purely subjective. From what I've played against and what support the archetypes currently have, I'm going to be dissecting them to see how strong each shell ultimately is. So with the intro out of the way, let's start off with the first of our red archetypes. Our first addition to the tier list is Ancient Dragons. We don't really have anything strong to solidify this. We have access to Elden Dragon's Jaw, the Nexus. The archetype is overall suppressed, however, by its much more supported brother, the Star Dragons. Trident Dragon is one of the better Ancient Dragons, and also draws on the Sanctuary sub-archetype. His ability to recycle multiple cores per turn with Ruby Sanctuary on board is actually pretty good. Due to this, I was able to actually run a Blue-Red Nexus control list in set 3 with him and Lyrica at the helm. The card's solid, but between the lack of current Sanctuary support, the lack of relevant Ancient Dragon support, this deck is just not great, and the Ancient Dragon list will fall into the middle of the pack. Cheating a little, we're going to go into Red-Green Ava. This deck feels just as aggressive as other red lists, with the addition of being able to play at flash speed with cards like 4-in-1 State and Armament Container to ramp. The deck has great draw and overall support. It was in the upper echelon of decks that came out in CBO1 and had both power and consistency. The only drawback for this archetype, sadly, is that CBO1 is just, a flash in the pan. It's a collaboration set. Ava decks will fade into obscurity moving forward. That being said, it's still incredibly strong, and the solid deck to bring to your local event slots straight into the upper categories for sure. Dragonoid is our next archetype, which has been a mainstay since set 1. The deck has plenty of support, though not a lot to show for it, with fringe inclusions like Tricera Warrior and Dragno King in red value lists. The deck hasn't made a large splash since set 1 starter deck aggro lists. Dynaman is still a mainstay in many red lists, but doesn't impact the archetype either. Sadly, very little of the Dragonoid archetype currently cares about itself, so the cards don't inherently combo well with each other. The cards end up filling niche spots into other archetypes, and whilst good overall, don't make for a great deck together. If you were to play a Dragonoid list, you'd be playing a less viable red aggro list or a slower mid-rangey deck with less win cons than the likes of Star Dragon. Dragonoid slots down into the janky tier. Cool cards, just not viable yet as its own deck. Next is the Emperor herself, Kay. Now this deck is heavily incentivized to go multicolor, but she is a red card and you obviously want some sort of red shell around her to cast her cheaper. Kay was in the lore set and is a product of kind of the lore set's failure. It introduced our first ever Blue Spirit, which has done nothing significant since release. Kay relies heavily on generating value on her when summoned effect to recycle multiple different colored cards from trash to generate hand advantage. Sadly, this only targets spirits. If this effect had targeted any card type, Kay would be much more viable. You'd probably see her a lot more. Her effect to blow up multiple spirits at a time is also really decent, but ever since set 2 and 3, cheaper cards have moved away from that 3000 BP threshold. People tend to gravitate towards that 4K mark, so a lot of the time, it's not doing much. She's got potential upgrades with the Surveyors, but with theory crafting and some games, it's still far too inconsistent to be considered decent. Kay is an amazing card in terms of flavor and design, but falls flat when it comes to building around her, so she falls to the worst tier, in need of considerable help. We're going to need a lot more to see her being viable in the future. Caldera is our next red deck, which has raised some eyebrows in terms of both gameplay and strength. Set 5 introducing red-blue dual-colored cards gave us a few support pieces to work with, creating an archetype that was centered around looting, the idea of drawing then discarding, to generate value. This list can abuse the new Giganto War God to ramp, as well as things like Clayonetta to destroy your Nexuses to draw more cards. The deck consistently is really solid. Red-Blue has access to the best card drawer in the game between the two colors, and whilst he doesn't necessarily care about his subtypes, the card's identity as a top-end semi-raid spirit is definitely a good boss monster. Playing Labyrinth in this deck too, you can hardcast Giganto if you're not interested in pitching him to ramp, allowing more damage threats and forcing your opponent to discard when interacting with you. The deck easily slots into the good but not great section, only because its current support as a deck is small in comparison to other lists. I see it putting in work at your locals, but don't expect it winning any events, at least at the moment. It is noted as well that a lot of the cards that synergize together with this list aren't actually together as an archetype. We have plenty of card draw, but you've got Clyonetta and Clyonest, who are both angels. Our big Caldera here is a Hydra. Our Giganto is a War God. So while the deck itself stands on good legs, the archetype of, creatures is not together. So set 5 gave us a ton of really cool red-purple spirits, and with it came the newest Pterosaur threat, Tyrantosaurus. This card is, in my collective community, immediately praised for its strength and potential. The Pterosaur archetype has plenty of cards that actually care about its subtype, like Giganorex, and the OG red list and Syntosaurus, enabling pseudo card draw. The appeal, at least to me, is being able to play Nexus Hazard. The card is pretty good overall, and I want more cards like this to make archetypes their own deck. The reduction you get off playing specifically Pterosaurs is the only reason you would want to play this card in a list. It's why you don't see it in generic red lists, because it's bricky otherwise. Pterosaurs are kind of near and dear to my heart as an archetype. The first pack I ever opened had the Diranorex SPR in it. That, and I genuinely love dinosaurs, having built a max rarity Gishath Commander deck, Magic the Gathering list as well. Pterosaurs suffer as an archetype under the is it better than Star Dragons mentality. I feel like a lot of red decks do, sadly. The deck has plenty of flexibility in gameplay, especially with the inclusion of being able to splash purple for core control, but doesn't show up all that often. Seeing someone play at locals with it, I've fallen victim to Tyrantosaurus more than once, but generally the deck is very reliant on having proper board presence to do anything. Since a lot of the new purple stuff includes immortal synergies, destroying a Pterosaur board in the main phase can shut the deck down pretty handedly. It's a solid archetype, plenty of support, and will continue to have more support in future. I'm just waiting till I can start playing a Commander-esque type format in BSS with all my Dino boys in this game too. And I guess we have to include the big bad of BSS right now, Star Dragons and Ira. I'm not going to rant about the deck, I'm not here to do that. The deck's far too consistent with Red's card draw, the flexibility with Big Bang energy, using Grey's extra copies in a pinch. The Star Dragon archetype has done good work for its name. It has Ancient Draw, Big Bang energy to help out its consistency. Nova combo was fringe at best until Ira was released in set 4, and still now, even 2 sets on, it's still one of, if not, the best deck to play. The Learn to Play deck also included plenty of Star Dragon support cards, and Star Dragons also getting Awaken allowed them to cross into that style of play if you weren't on the Ira bandwagon. Star Dragons will always have a place of relevancy, at least while they continue to print them. It's very likely the deck will have some kind of nerf or ban announcement hitting it soon to help the meta feel a little less stagnant, as Ira creates games that aren't all that interesting or exciting to play against. Ira is the first deck to hit that legendary meta-defining status, which shouldn't be a surprise. Next up are the Emperor Beasts. They are actually a pretty big mixed bag. I don't really know what to say about them, to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen anyone run a proper Emperor Beast list. I don't think it surprises me that I haven't. The greatest success the archetype has was Bearded Eagle being included in every red list for a couple of sets as a free castable spirit with solid BP thresholds. That is not something good to say. Both X-rays for the archetype are mid at best and don't do anything for the archetype itself. King Vulture also made the rounds for a while in set 2, briefly as a check into Netherworld Depths. With Depths banned, the card was useless once again. The archetype is going to need a lot of help and some decent support cards before it sees any relevant play. It's going to join K at the bottom of the barrel for red. So some honourable mentions for the rest of the red archetypes that are currently swimming around. We have Lava Fish. I've been joking since set 2, I want a fish deck. We have plenty of red and white fish cards. Set 6 better give me my red white fishy boys. We also have Skyfang. Don't know why they weren't just lumped in with pterosaurs. I guess because they fly and pterosaurs are meant to be dinosaurs. Flying dinosaurs aren't really dinosaurs in that same way. But maybe we see more support for them in the future, which will be pretty cool. Reptoids, same kind of thing, supporting archetype between Dragonoids and Pterosaurs. Nothing super special about them, pretty fringe at most. So that's our list for the current rate of archetypes in the game. If you've been around for a while, the results probably don't surprise you all that much. The next video is going to continue on where we cover the purple archetypes. I did enjoy writing up these videos as this is more or less the essence of what I'm thinking about when deck building. So breaking down each archetype in a way where we can actually see the current strength of them is both enjoyable and interesting. As always, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Let me know if you agree, disagree on the positions of the archetypes in the comments below. I'll see you all in the next video, but until then, look after yourself. Ta-ta.